getting haircuts, because Torah prohibits certain things regarding this, right? There are certain things that we're not allowed to do.
Okay.
So the basic idea that Torah teaches us is that you're not allowed to shave with a razor, right? So what does that mean, razor? A sharp object like that. It could be also a knife, could be also a piece of glass, a blunt piece of glass, sharp, whatever, anything like that which has the properties of a razor, sharp object, blunt, you pass over your face like this, that's not allowed to shave like that. That's a prohibition. So there's all kinds of issues about that, right? By the way, why did the Torah make this prohibition? So the Rambam, presents in his book Moreh Nevuchim, he presents actually a theory about that. He says that maybe it's because, not maybe, because he says the reason is because the idolatrous priests used to do that. So in order to make us different from the idol worshippers, those guys over there, those guys. In order to separate us from them, so therefore we shouldn't do like them to shave with a razor, because they shave with a razor. These guys, these guys over there, and this is what we shouldn't do. That's what he says, right?
How do you get a good shave?
How do you get a good shave? Good question. This is what we're to discuss. We'll discuss this whole thing right now.
Use chemicals.
Chemicals, okay. So, now, you may think, by the way, that since the Torah tells you not to shave with a razor, so there's also prohibition on other types of shaving. So the truth is that there are other types of shaving which are permitted. For instance, Talmud teaches you're allowed to shave with a cream. Some kind of a chemical, as you said.
Nair.
Yeah, Nair, the Nair thing, right? So you're allowed to use Nair. You're allowed to use something like that. Even on your face, wherever you want to use it. There are, by the way, special ones that are made for the face, whatever. There's all kinds of things. So this kind of thing you're allowed to use. There's also another thing, by the way, you're allowed to use, which is the tweezers.
Oh, you can rip it out?
Yeah, to go like this.
You're not doing
that you're allowed to do, right? In the old days, the women used to do that.
Yeah.
They used to go like that. Right nowadays, they have better methods. They have better ways to do that.
Yeah,
right?
rip it out with something else.
Wax, whatever. They have wax. They have electrolysis. They have laser. They have all kinds of things nowadays. Right? There's all kinds of technology that are available.
It hurts.
Okay. So the question is like this, right? What is really prohibited? Only the razor or something which looks like a razor. But in terms of other things, creams, tweezers, things like this, or also scissors.
Electrolysis.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that too. But the scissors also are permitted. Meaning what? That a person can take scissors and cut his hair, even though he's cutting pretty close to his,
Right, but not on the skin itself.
That's the question, right? Are you allowed to go on the skin or not on the skin, right? We're going to discuss that too. But just basically, right, there's actually several opinions about this regarding if you're allowed to use scissors very, very, very close until it becomes like a razor almost, Right. So there's two opinions brought down, right, regarding that. There's the opinion of the Rambam, there's the opinion of the Rosh. The Rambam says you're allowed to use scissors even very, very close. It's allowed. And according to the Rosh, you shouldn't use scissors that close, especially on the peot. Now, see, what happens is like this, right, that the face, the head really is divided up into different sections, right? We have the peot, which are the corners of the face. Right? There's also a prohibition to shave this part. Right, exactly, the peot. Right? So this part over here, it starts from the forehead, goes down on the ear again, right under the ear, right where that jawbone ends, where that that bone ends there, until that place where one is connected to the other, that one part of the jaw is connected to the other, that right there, that end bone over there. So that whole area is called the pe'ah. And therefore, it's not allowed to shave there, right? Shave there. Oh yes. So, what are you allowed to do? What are you not allowed to do? Right. First of all, we have to say, right? How many do we have of those on the head? We have two. One on the right side, one on the left side. We have two of them. So, both of these areas, a person is not allowed to shave that. So, what does it mean to shave it? According to Rambam, as we said, it means to cut it with a razor.
Okay.
That's what it means. But to cut it with scissors, according to Rambam, you're allowed to, even though it's very close.
Paces.
Right? Yes. Okay. Now comes the Rosh and says, no, you shouldn't do.
You don't have to have a pace.
You don't have to grow them so much, right? According to Rambam, yes. You don't have to grow them. You don't have to have those antennas on your antenna, to get Wi-Fi, whatever. That you don't need, but you don't need that, right? Okay, so right, so you don't have to have the reception on your face. Okay, whatever. So the point is, Rabbi, that as we said, according to Rosh, you shouldn't also use scissors very, very close on the on the peot, right? Exactly on the corners of the head. So what's the halacha? The Shulchan Aruch, he brings both opinions, but he says, right, that there's a rule in the Shulchan Aruch, right? If he says one opinion without any author, just straight language, and then he says there are some who say like this. So always the halacha, the rule is like the law is like the first opinion. So therefore here also, the first opinion says that you're allowed to use even right, scissors very, very close. So therefore the halacha is like that. But concludes the Shulchan Aruch over there. This is in Yordea Kuf Pe Aleph Gimel Sif Gimel. It says over there Shulchan Aruch that the first opinion is that you're allowed to do it with the scissors. Then he brings the second opinion, as we said. But then he says like this, right? That you should be concerned about the second opinion as well. What does that mean, concerned? It means that try to always keep a second opinion as well. That's what he says over there. So what does that mean? The truth is, right, that even though he says that, you should try to keep a second opinion as well, but the halacha is like the first opinion, because there's a rule like that. The rule says in the Shulchan Aruch, in Hebrew, I'll say it in Hebrew and then I'll explain to you what it means in English, right? It says like this, right? The Stam Beyesh, Stam Beyesh, halacha kemo stam. What does that mean? If the Shulchan Aruch brings two opinions, one next to the other, the first one is said just as a law, regular, and then it says some say also different way, right? So when it says some say, we don't go like that. That's halacha. Halacha is like the first opinion that says without some say. But since over here he says also that it's good to be concerned about the second opinion as well, so he's recommending to you that really you should try to be also concerned about the second opinion as well. So therefore, right, really the truth is that bare bones halacha, bare bones I'm talking, right? A person can get away with going like the first opinion as well. Why is that? Because since we have the rule that the halacha is like the first opinion, so therefore here also we say halacha is like the first opinion. That's the way it is. But if you really want to be a big tzaddik, right? If you want to be a big chassid, so what should you do? Also try to do like the second opinion as well. This is already like more than halacha a little bit, right? It's very recommended. So therefore, what your person should try to do is also not to just cut the peot. We're talking now not about the beard yet, right? We're talking about the peot. This is the corner of the head, right? That's what we call it, right? So that area, according to Rambam, as we said, you're not allowed to cut it with a razor. Only a razor is a problem. But with scissors, it's allowed, according to Rambam. According to Rosh, also scissors too close, no good. Right?
As long as you don't scrape it on your skin.
We're going to get to that point also, right? We're going to talk about that. But so, what's the bottom line? Bottom line is that a person now, practically speaking, right? What can you really do? Right, let's say, so there are some people who like to have, over here the peot. They like to have them full bushy, bushy sideburns, whatever. Like some people like to do it that way. Some people like to do it very, like very skimpy, or like just half, whatever, or or they like to just shave it off altogether, like tomahawk style, whatever, that kind of thing, right? So there are those who like this way. There are all kinds of tastes in this world, right? Everybody's different tastes. So what can a person do really, right? If he wants to have it bushy, so very good, right? He's fulfilling all the opinions. Why? Because, as we said, right, that if you're not cutting too close with the scissors, then everybody loves that. It's not a problem. It's not an issue. Only when you get a little bit too close.
It's perfect length.
Okay, I agree with you. So, stubble.
Yes.
Macho style. Okay. So.
A rough neck.
Okay. So, as we said, this is the halacha. Bottom line, what can a person do? We say like this, right? That there's different types of machines that are used nowadays. If you go to a barber, right, he has his his razor, right, his regular razor, right? Like, we don't use that. The Jews don't use that. So what other options do we have? He has a hair cutting machine, the tripper, the trimmer, right? The trimmer, like a hair cutting machine, and also he has a shaving machine which shaves closer. You also have that in your house, maybe, Norelco, whatever, one of these, Philips, whatever, Remington, whatever, those things, right? All these companies, they're all pretty much the same. These things, they're all pretty much the same. So why do I say they're the same? By the way, the reason that they're the same is because all of them are using the same method, basically, which is what? That there's knives inside the machine, but it's covered with a screen. Right? So that screen is what makes it allowed to use the machine. Right? By the way, there are some authorities, the truth is, there are some authorities that don't allow to use the machine. But the halacha is not like that. The halacha is that you're allowed to use the machine. Who said so? Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. He writes that you're allowed to use the machine. Any machine, doesn't matter what's Norelco, Philips, this, that, lift and cut, there's all these brands, all these things, whatever, all these features, they're all allowed, according to Moshe Feinstein. Same thing with Rabbi Yosef, our rabbi also said, right, that what? You're allowed to use the electric razor, any kind of electric razor. No matter what it is, lift and cut, this, all that, all the good ones, all the brands, every one of them. So what's the reason? The reason is because since there's a screen over it, the blade is not really touching your face. So therefore, it's working like a scissor action. What does that mean? That the screen is one blade, right? And the knife is going around like this. So it's like scissor. It's like two basically working together. You understand? So therefore, since it's like two things working together to cut that hair, so therefore it's considered to be like scissors. And this is the reason why we allow electric machines. So what does that mean? That if you want to go like the opinion of the Rosh, who says that you shouldn't use also scissors very, very close also, right? That also you shouldn't do on your peot, over here on your corners, right? We're not talking about the beard yet. It's a little bit different. So according to the Rosh, you shouldn't use the electric shaver on your peot, on your corners here. You should not use them. But according to the Rambam, you're allowed to use it. Why is that? Because the Rambam says you can use scissors even very, very close. No problem. So since he allows you to use scissors, this is also the same thing. It's a scissor action over here with the machine. Right. And this is the reason why it's allowed to use the machine according. So what's the halacha? Halacha is, the truth is, right, if you want to be a real big tzaddik and do like all the opinions, so what do? If you want to cut your peot and be a stylish guy, one of these modern guys, right, likes to make it thin over here and stuff, no bushy stuff over here, right? So you want to make it nice and thin, whatever, or just like a stubble, or you want like a little stubble you want to have. So if you want to do like that, what you do is like use a hair cutting machine, because the hair cutting machine is not like the shaving machine, not the same thing. What's the difference? Shaving machine gets really, really close. It's like almost like a razor, or sometimes even like a razor, whatever. And the hair cutting machine leaves a stubble. It always leaves a stubble, no matter what. The hair cutting machine, by nature, cannot get that close. So therefore, right, according to all opinions, a person is allowed to use a hair cutting machine. No problem to cut his peot, right? Is allowed to do that. So I ask you a question, right? If that's the case, why is it that the Ashkenazim and also the Temanim, the Yemenites, they grow peot like really, really long? As we said, the antennas. We got the antennas over there. So what's the reason why they grow them? We just said, right, that according to all opinions, you don't need to do that.
They want to be extra stringent.
Extra stringent.
Is the payas? Is there some special significance in having the payas?
So you know what it is? To be honest with you, this is according to the Kabbalah. According to the Arizal, he writes the Arizal. He was one of the great Mekubalim of all times. He writes the Arizal that according to the Kabbalah, a person should have some growth on the peot, not just leave it, very, very short. You know what I mean? So according to the language of the Arizal...
Is that protecting the temple? Is that what it is?
You mean what? Physical protection? No, that's not the reason why. It's a spiritual thing, We'll try to explain that, by the way, what the significance of that is. Okay. We'll try to explain what all these things mean. But anyway, it says the Arizal, according to the words of the Arizal, it's kind of like implied that a person should grow the peot, quite significantly. And this is a proper way to do it. But there's also, even according to the Arizal, there's a way of overdoing it. Overkill, right? What's the overkill according to the Arizal? Says the Arizal, the overkill would be if you would let the peot grow so long. He says that you should put it behind your ear. Right, you notice, by the way, right, that the Ashkenazim have like behind the ear?
Yes.
So they do? Right, not the Hasidim, the Lithuanians. Hasidim do all like this, down, straight. But the Lithuanians, they do it behind the ear, like this, right? So says the Arizal, do it behind the ear, but don't let it grow beyond the ear, the bottom of the ear.
The earlobe.
You know why? Why? Because it shouldn't get into the area of the beard. That's the reason why. What's the reason for that?
I don't know.
So says the Arizal, the reason it shouldn't get there is because the beard, the hair of the beard and the hair of the pe'ah have two different qualities. What does that mean? The pe'ah is din, judgment, right? It has a quality of judgment, strict. So when you grow over there, you're making a lot of judgment there. So what happens is that, says the Arizal, since the hair of the beard is chesed, kindness, it's a different quality altogether, just the opposite. So therefore, don't mix them together. In other words, it should stop right there before the beard. Don't let it go into the area of the beard, the pe'ah, because there you're mixing two things, shatness, two diverging the forces. Don't want that. That's no good.
Ice and fire.
Fire and ice. Okay. So that's exactly the reason why, says the Arizal, that you should grow it that long only, not more than that. That's it, right? Don't go too far. So what happens is like this, right? That the truth is that the Hasidim and the Temanim, the Yemenites, they ignore this whole thing. What does that mean? They grow like all the way down, and goes down here, sometimes goes down even to the collar here. This is their peot. Goes really, really long. Huge. Sometimes you see that, right? Not all the time, but sometimes you see it.
Keep it away from the beard.
They put it, actually it just goes like, on the beard itself sometimes. Yeah. So if that's the case, so this is according to the Arizal, this is the wrong way to do it. This is right, according to Kabbalah, you're mixing two things together, diverging forces, no good. Right, opposing forces. So therefore, it says the Arizal, don't do that. But what happens is like this, right? Since the halakha doesn't prohibit that, to have it this way. Okay. This is only according to Kabbalah. So we're not, we're Kabbalists, all of us, we're Kabbalistic, we're just regular Jews, regular people, run-of-the-mill people, so we just want to keep the halakha the way it is. We're not always concerned about what it says in the Kabbalah. So therefore, really the truth is that we cannot tell the Hasidim that do that, or the Temanim, the Yemenites, that they're doing something, it's prohibited. It's not prohibited what they do. Just that according to the Kabbalah, it shouldn't be that way. Whatever, okay, this is something, above the law. It's saintliness. That's what it is. You want to be a saint? Okay, you want to be a saint. That's up to you. Be whatever you want to be. So Rabbatai, this is now, what's the idea? But the custom of the Sfaradim is just the opposite of all that. What does that mean? The Sfaradim, even the big rabbis by the Sfaradim, they don't grow the peot long. They keep it short. A little bush, a little bit shrub there, that's it. No big fuss. You understand? That's it. They don't grow long. And by the way, the truth is that since we said that the pe'ah is din, it's judgment, so therefore really there's something good about that also. In other words, you don't want to have too much judgment on you, You want to have as minimum as possible. You need to have some judgment. And that's the reason why you're not allowed to cut the pe'ot altogether. Because you have to have some a little bit. The world cannot exist without judgment, without justice. You need to have that too in the world. But you don't want to have too much where, people get overwhelmed with justice too much, like, you start to feel like in a cage, in a jail cell. So, you don't want too much. So therefore the truth is, right, the custom of Sfaradim is also very legitimate. And, each community which has their custom, probably the best thing to do is just continue with their custom, not to have to change. Don't try to be like a wannabe, grass is greener on the other side. Do like somebody else. What's it to you now to be somebody else? Do like what your community does. That's the best thing to do, that's the way it is. So every community, because of their qualities, spiritual qualities, does a different way to suit their spiritual qualities. Because in the Jewish people, we have different tribes, we have different qualities, so each one has, different balance of judgment and chesed, of kindness. So, 30-70, 60-40, each community has a different level. So that's the way it is. And this is the reason why we have these several customs in the Jewish people, right? This way, that way, whatever. But as we said, right, the halakha, bottom line, halakha is not like any of these things. Halakha says, as long as you don't shave it, with a shaving machine or with a razor, depending on this opinion, right? The Rambam says only a razor is prohibited. And according to Rosh, even a scissor is very, very, very close, is also prohibited. So you're okay. In other words, if you want to go in like any one of these opinions, you're fine. If you want to go like both of them, then you're really, really 100% kosher, right? Black kosher. You're glad. Black kosher, yeah. So that's good, right? So this is the way it is. This is the way it is, Rabbi. So this is regarding the peot. Okay? Now we get to the beard. Why? Because the Torah also says, don't shave the corners of the beard, the corners of your face. The corners of your face. So the question is like this now, right? Where are the corners of the face? Where are they?
cheek, no?
the cheeks. Everybody has their own way of saying it. The truth is that if you look in the Rishonim, if you look in the former authorities, you will find over there like 3-4 different opinions regarding where the peot are, where the corners of the face are. The most prevailing opinion is that we're talking about here the jawbone, and then the chin, the chin. Right? Those are the 5, 2, 4, 5. Right? That's the prevailing opinion. So therefore, there are actually some people, some Orthodox Jews, who actually do shave parts of their face with a razor, but they leave only the corners like that. Whatever, or maybe they're doing it with a machine, whatever it is, I don't know how they're doing it, but it could be also with a razor, maybe, possibly. So they're doing according to only one opinion, but the truth is, it says the Shulchan Aruch, and also the Rosh, brings this down, the Shulchan Aruch brings down the Rosh, that what? That since there's several opinions regarding where the corners of the face are, so therefore they say, right, don't use a razor on your face at all. Why? Because you're always going to find some opinion what you're going over. So therefore, don't touch it with a razor. That's what they're telling you, right? Because otherwise, you're always going to be, in trouble. Because who can be so precise, right? To go here, not there, not 1 centimeter over, 1 millimeter over, 1 millimeter more, and you're already going over prohibition, right? So who can? You're not doing surgery. It's not a surgery. You're doing a shave, What are you doing with a scalpel or what? How can you be so precise? How can you be so? So therefore, a person who wants to be realistic, about his abilities of shaving, you should know that don't touch the face with a razor. And by the way, they also say, not only the face itself, there we're talking about something which is prohibition from the Torah, to do the face. That's something else. But the rabbis also have another prohibition, which is what? That they said you're not allowed to use a razor on any part of your body. We're talking about males, not women. Right? You're not allowed to use a razor on any part of your body. So what does that mean? Not on your chest, not on your underarms, not on your pubic areas, not on your legs. You're not allowed to shave with a razor on any part of the body. So what's the reason why? The rabbis added this prohibition. Why? Because it looks like it's a woman's kind of thing. It's a feminine kind of activity. So therefore they said, right, don't be a lady, We have enough problems today with the men who are trying to be ladies, right? So we don't need any more problems with that. We already have lots of issues. Ask Trump, he'll tell you about that. He'll tell you about all these things. Okay, so he's trying to make some laws now to bypass them, He's trying to do some tricks against them. Okay, he's doing the best he can. What can you do? So anyway,
Trying to get it.
okay. So getting back to what we said about time. So the corners of the face, we're not even sure where they are. So therefore, we don't touch it. But what about shaving machine? What about other trimmers? This and that. For sure, using the trimmer, as we said, right on the face is for sure allowed. No question about that. Meaning what? The hair cutting machine, anywhere on your face will be allowed, but it's going to leave a stubble. It's not 100%, right? So if you're using a good shaver, like Norelco, Phillips or whatever, Remington, whatever, one of these kind of things, so there you're going to get a much closer shave, than a hair cutting machine, obviously. So there, the truth is, right, that there are, as we said, Moshe Feinstein and Moran Rabbi, they do permit to use also on your face the razor, because it's like a scissor action. And here, by the way, almost all the opinions don't say that what? Even on the peot of the Rosh, the corners of the Rosh, as we said, on the head, right? That there are some who say don't use too close with scissors, don't do. But here on the face, even the ones who say you're not allowed to do it here, they allow it over here. Right. So therefore, the truth is that a person who uses an electric shaver, he definitely has what to rely on. There are some authorities, recent authorities, that don't allow this, and that they say they have to fix the machine, you have to do some kind of trick on it to remove some of the blades, whatever, this and that, lift and cut, don't do lift and cut, don't do this, don't do that. But the truth is, to be honest with you, I think that their opinion is not really so precise. Why is that? Because the reason is because since there's a screen on top, it doesn't really matter what's going on inside there, This blade, that blade, how many knives are there? What difference does it make? As long as there's a screen on top, it's a scissor action.
Okay.
So therefore, you understand? That's the reason why, really, right, the ones who are saying all these things are really not... and by the way, they also have another claim. I heard one rabbi who gave a lecture on this one time, right? The truth is that he's wrong. I'll tell you what he said. He said, there was in Israel, this rabbi. So he said that there's a problem with the electric razors. You know why? Because what they do is like this, right? They do you ever see a horror movie before in your life? Horror movie? I don't watch movies, but it's horror movies like this, right? That they take a electric razor, right? Can you imagine? And they do like a slow-mo, and you see the razor actually like cuts the face, does look like gashes the face, like when you do slow motion. It's like, it catches all the imperfections of the machine. Sometimes it can cut you, the machine. You know that, right?
Yeah.
It can cut you.
Burn,
Yeah. Also, or your neck, or on your face, or whatever. It could cut you anywhere. So, what they're trying to say is like this, right? Since we see in that slow motion, horror movie, that the shaver is cutting you, so then it must be that it's like a blade. Oh. So therefore they want to say, right? Don't use it because of that. So what's the answer to that question? It's not really a question. They're trying to make it as a claim. But the truth is they're not correct, these claims. I'll tell you why. The reason is because what happens is sometimes a person presses down with the machine, like fairly strong. And then what happens is that he can get cut because of that, because the knife will actually touch his skin.
It's a burn.
Understand? It can actually touch the skin. But even if it does, let's say, right, it does cut you, it still has not really reached the level of prohibition. You know why? Because since it's a scissor action, right, it's going one on top of the other. Okay. So therefore, even if a scissor can cut you too, you can cut yourself with a scissor pretty good. Oh, yeah. No, you know that, right? Yeah, ask those guys on the hijacked planes. They have scissors. They can hijack the plane with that thing, right? They know. So scissors can cut you very, very well. So what's the difference between a scissor and this machine? Same thing, right? This can cut you, this can cut you. Just like the scissor can cut you, this permitted. It's also a machine that can cut you, is also permitted. You know why? Because the only thing that we prohibit is when you take a blunt object, blade, razor, right, knife, whatever, and put it like glide it over your face like this. That's called shaving with a blade. You're gliding it like over without two things. Two arms, just one. Going like this, gliding it over. This is a prohibition. But the prohibition is not when you put like this, scissors like this. This is not prohibition. Like the scissors don't really destroy. They don't really destroy the hair. They don't really get to the root of it. They don't really get to the Even though the truth is that even the shaving also doesn't get to the root exactly, but at least what's on the surface it really takes off. Makes it like a baby face, baby face action. So this is the reason why, Rabbi, that even though sometimes these machines can actually cut you, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's prohibited. There's also another thing, right, which is that a person who gets cut by that machine, that's not his kavanah, that's not his intention. So therefore, and it's also not every time that you use the machine you're going to get cut. So there's a concept in halakha called psik resha. What does that mean? That it's not for sure every time you glide that machine on your face, you're going to get cut. So therefore, since it's just an accidental thing, once in a while it occurs, that's not a prohibited in halakha. Halakha only prohibits something which is like for sure. In other words, every time you glide it over, it's going to cut you. So that's something else, right? Also because of this reason. So therefore, the truth is that the bottom line, that electric razors are allowed to use on the face. But there's also a method, right? As we said, there's also other methods of shaving today. There's a lot of methods today, right? And so we have to go over, right, these methods. And by the way, the truth is that if a person wants to be stringent and not use a machine, I'm very happy with that. I have nothing wrong with that. If he wants to do it with some kind of either device, whatever, we're going to discuss now the alternatives, right? If you want to be stringent on the machine and not use it, so there's also alternatives, right? As we mentioned right before in the classes here, that you can also use a cream, right? As we said, right? The cream, by the way, they say it does a very good job. The ones who use it, I never used it before, but the ones who did use it, they tell me that it does a really good job. It does really shaves very close. You have to get used to it. It's like also some kind of a regularity there. Whatever you have to use it. You know how to use it. Whatever. Once you get into that pattern, that mode of using this thing, so it seems to turn out very, very, very well. Right? It's kind of smelly though, but okay. What can you do? Put on some cologne afterwards. What can you do? Get the smell like that smell. So as we said, you're allowed to use the cream. That's one thing. And why is that, by the way? Why is it allowed to use the cream? Because the Torah only talked about a razor, So therefore, says the Talmud, all these other methods are allowed. You shouldn't assume, by the way, I assume that because a razor is not allowed, also the cream is not allowed. Don't assume things. Don't assume anything. You have to know, first of all, right, what's the law? You have to get into the Torah, look at the Talmud, look at the Halakha, look at the Shulchan Aruch, look at the Bet Yosef, look at the Rishonim, look at the Achronim, look at everything, and then you see what's going on. But don't just assume, I assume, what happens when you assume? You make I don't want to say. Right? So, yeah, okay, right. So, don't assume anything. And as we said, right, there's also, says the Gemara, the tweezers are also allowed. Even though you're pulling the hair totally out of the, you're like uprooting it, But tweezer is allowed because you're not doing anything on your face. So what does that mean? There are machines today, right, called epilators. You know what they are, right, these things? Yeah. The epilators are basically electric tweezer. So what does it do?
It rubs the hair out?
It pulls it out.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but it does it in a very fast way, like, very quickly. Yeah. So it's not, it's not so painful like a regular tweezer. Yeah. It's a little bit less painful because it's like too fast to feel it. Whatever. You do feel it. You do feel it.
It's like taking feathers out of a chicken.
So these epilators, by the way, there's like German machines that are made like this. Braun, like a Braun company, right. So they have they're very big experts in this. So what happens is, right, that there's an advantage to them, though. I must tell you, right. The ladies use them. The men don't usually use these things, but the ladies use them for their legs and stuff. And the reason is because when they uproot the hair, it takes like a while for it to grow back, So it's a longer period, right? Exactly. So it can be like up to a month or whatever, So it'll keep you, smooth for quite a while. And this is the reason why some people like to use these, even though they're quite painful, as I said, right? They are somewhat painful, but they say you get used to it after a while. It's like, So, by the way, there's also another thing with these machines, these epilators, that they say that because if you use them on a regular basis, the first time will be very painful, relatively speaking. But then as you go on, it's going to be less painful. You know why? Because every time you use that machine, it grows thinner, the hairs, like not so thick. It takes a while for it to get back to the thickness that it was before, So therefore, if you're using, let's say, once a month, and you're using these machines, so actually what happens is that then it becomes less painful because the hairs are thinner, then less significant. And this is the reason. Yeah, that's also true. So what happens is, right, that a lot of people are also using this kind of thing. So what is the halacha? Since the tweezer is allowed, so for sure this thing is also allowed. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
There's no question.
I'm not using anything right now. I'm letting it grow.
You're like
getting a ponytail.
You're like Samson, Shimshon, whatever.
No, Samson.
Okay. He wasn't shaving.
Keep my strength.
Okay. So, as we said, Rabotai, these epilators, according to the halacha, they're definitely permitted. Even by the way, on the face, they're permitted. And all the more so on the body, right? Why? Because the face is from the Torah, the body is only the Rabbanan, it's only rabbinical. So therefore, obviously, if you're allowed over here, it's also allowed over there, obviously, right? All the more so. So even though, by the way, that it shaves you very smooth, and you come out like a baby, mamash like a baby, super baby, like infant, whatever. But still, nevertheless, the Torah didn't forbid this method. So therefore, we have no way to say, oh, it's not allowed. I'm assuming. Don't assume anything. So then, right, we have also other types of hair removal. Right, there's also the electrolysis and the laser, right? These things, right? Mm-hmm. So these things are using, electricity or laser current beams, whatever, all the kinds of things like this. So here also, since the Torah didn't forbid any of these things, by the way, there are questions that come in about these things. They say, right, that what? Are you allowed to use the laser, to cut your beard? Because if you use it like for several treatments, maybe it won't even grow back anymore. Right? Sometimes it doesn't even come back. So laser can get rid of it like permanently sometimes, It's not 100%, by the way, because sometimes it does, sometimes doesn't.
You gotta kill the hair follicle.
Right, you need a lot of treatments also, there's all kinds of issues there. So the point is, Rabotai, that since the Torah only forbade the blade, so therefore all these methods are allowed. Even though they shave very, very well, and they're going to get rid of everything, and they may not even grow back. So, but the Torah doesn't talk about these things, doesn't mention any of these things. And the rabbis also did not make any enactments about these things, right? Whether it's tweezers, whether it's laser, obviously laser, in those times they didn't have laser, right? What do they know about laser? They know nothing about that. Right? So therefore, for sure, electrolysis wasn't there at that time, laser wasn't at that time. So nobody made an enactment about this, nobody made any prohibitions about this. So therefore, all these methods are allowed. So therefore, and the cream also, as we said, right, is allowed. So we have lots of alternatives, to the blade. So Baruch Hashem, a person, wants to keep halacha, he can still get by pretty well in life. You're not going to be shortchanged with anything, yeah. You should know, by the way.
You have to work for the Hasidic, though.
What does that mean?
I understand that. Yeah. That's what you have to do.
Okay. By the way, I saw something really interesting, about this issue. It says in Midrash that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, when Hashem created the world, He made all kinds of things which are prohibited to the Jews, like 613 mitzvot. But it says in Midrash that whatever he forbade, he gave us something which is similar to that, and he permitted. Every prohibition has some kind of a congruent, some kind of something which is allowed, which gives you the same type of sensation or pleasure or whatever, this kind of thing, right? Yeah. Can you imagine such a thing like this? So they give examples of this actually, So what are the examples, right? There are some who like to eat the blood, they like to taste the blood.
Mm-hmm. Hillary Clinton.
Okay, that was a good one.
Well, she has that disease.
Okay. I see you took David's place today. You almost now making the jokes. He's not here to make the jokes. Okay. We need somebody,
He's not here. He said he was coming.
He said he's not feeling good. He said he's not feeling good. Yeah. So he's also not feeling good, but he's strong. He came. He's like a lion. God bless you. God give you health. Not everybody can come like this. I'm not afraid of the germs. So don't worry.
God's with you.
God's with us. So, Rabbi, as we said, that all these other types of things are permitted, and as we said, right, that getting back to the story that we're talking about, the Kadosh Baruch Hu, right? There are some people who like blood, taiva for blood, they have a lust for blood, they have a desire for blood. So even though you're not allowed to eat blood, right, according to the Torah, blood you're not allowed to have.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So then what takes the place of that? You're allowed to eat liver, right? And liver is full of blood. So liver you're allowed to have, right? So therefore, right? So Hashem told you, don't eat blood, but, as a compensation for that, I'm giving you liver to allowing you to eat liver.
Steer liver and chicken liver.
Yeah, any kind of liver, any kosher liver, right? Whatever it is. So that you're allowed to have, right? Same thing, right? There are some people who like to have meat and milk together. And that's not allowed according to the Torah.
Right, one before the other.
So there is a place where you're allowed to have meat and milk together. You know where that is? It's called the kahal. You know what that is? The udder of the animal. The udder, it's meat and milk together, and you're allowed to have that meat there.
Breast?
Yeah, exactly. The udder. It's like, the actual,
Tits.
Yeah. Exactly.
Are you a tit man, Rabbi?
Okay. So, you understand what I'm saying? So that you're allowed to have. Even though you're going to get the taste over there of meat and milk, you are, because it's there.
Right.
Even if you squeeze it totally out, something is going to remain there. You're going to get the taste of it. So that allowed you, right? There are some people who like to be with a woman when she's menstruating. Can you imagine that? So the Hashem said, don't be with a woman when she's menstruating, right? What does that mean? She's bleeding, right? There are some men who want that. Yeah. So what's the story? Right, there is also a way that's also a way like that. What does that mean? That there are women who gave birth, and they bleed after the birth, right? So that blood after the birth, like 2 weeks after, that's clean blood. So at that time, you're allowed to be with her at that time. Even though, by the way, now we don't do it anymore, but according to the Torah, it's allowed. Now the custom is not to do that. But anyway, Rabbi, nowadays what we do is that after the woman gives birth, we have to wait till she totally stops bleeding altogether, right? And then she goes to the mikveh, and then 7 clean days, like a regular, thing. 7 clean days, she goes to the mikveh, but until she stops bleeding altogether, nowadays the custom is not to, be with her. But according to the Torah, after, if it's a male or a female, right, depending, 1 or 2 weeks, she can go to the mikveh and you can be with her even though she's bleeding. So there's also a permitted way regarding this. There's also, men, as we said, we talked about this right on Tuesday, right? There are men who like married women, Esav, he's an Esav kind of guy. So what do we give you as a consolation? Because you don't take married women, because you're not allowed to. So we give you a divorced woman, right? So, which is similar. What does that mean? She was already married to a man, she's divorced. So there you're allowed to be with. But, so in other words, they give you compensation for everything, you understand? The Torah gives you, so you can you use your imagination to see what compensation you deserve according to what what you everybody has their own. Okay, get some rabbinical advice though, just to make sure that you're thinking the right way, you're imagining the right way. Okay, so anyway,
you're thinking the right way. Right?
Okay.
No, it's right.
Okay, so that's what I'm telling you, Rabbi. So here also, regarding the shaving, we have the blade, which is not allowed, but all these other methods which are allowed. So we have no problem. There's no issue.
Yeah, but when it's long,
choose your method, and go for it. That's it.
When the beard is long, you can't use those other methods because it gets stuck.
Right, but so what you do is first cut it with scissors, and then go with that stuff. There's a solution for everything. Use a trimmer.
It's okay. It doesn't matter.
Well, lately I haven't been cutting it, but once I used to, in the old good old days.
A pillow.
What's the significance of long beard?
Okay, so let's explain that because it's also this part of the discussion over here, right? So the truth is that, as we said, right, that there's all kinds of methods to shave, but the Talmud says, nevertheless, even though there are permitted ways to shave, but zakan, right, the beard is something very positive, a very, 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 very praiseworthy thing. Why is it very praiseworthy? Because number one, it says in Gemara, it's hadrat panim. You know what that means? It's the prominence of the face, the beauty of the face. In other words, when you have a beard, you become like more prominent looking. Right? Don't take it personally, whatever. So that's what the Gemara says, right? So by the way, there were some rabbis who didn't have a beard. Yeah. I'm not talking about today's rabbis who shave with a machine. I'm not talking about those guys. I'm talking about it never grew. There were some rabbis, their beard never grew, right? Oh, yeah. Why is that? Because they're like very thin, they're very, very fine hair, whatever. Oh, so they can't grow a beard. Right. They can't get a normal beard. Kinky. So yeah, so these guys like this, these guys, they can't grow a beard. It's not possible. So they say by the Rabbi Yochanan, who was one of the great rabbis of the Talmud, he didn't have a beard because it didn't grow. Yeah. So there was, something lacking there, whatever. Even though, by the way, he was a very handsome man. They say he was super, super handsome, this guy. Right? The Rabbi Yochanan. But nevertheless, he had no beard. So it says in the Gemara, he didn't have the prominence of the face, right? Hadat panim. He didn't have the beard. What can you do? He wasn't able to grow it. So now David can go to Walgreens and buy some stuff. That's the solution for that too, maybe. Okay. Whatever. So, today everything can be done. So, Rabbi, why there's also another reason, right? Besides the prominence of the face, they also say that, as we said, right, that the peot, the hair of the head is din, judgment, right? And the hair of the beard is chesed, kindness. So therefore a person who grows the beard gets more kindness, like in other words, he makes the kindness flourish upon him. You understand? So therefore he gets more heavenly kindness from that. That's the reason why the beard is something very positive in Jewish thinking, right? This is the reason why, according to the Kabbalah. And they say, by the way, that this is the reason why a person shouldn't touch his beard at all. According to the Kabbalah, just let it grow altogether. But the truth is that it says it comes to Ben Ish Chai. He has he was one of the great Mekubalim of the last 200 years. Ben Ish Chai, so he writes, the truth is that according to the Kabbalah, it's not true that you have to let just grow free, without touching it. He says even if you cut it a little bit, it's okay. So therefore, definitely, right, a person who wants to cut his beard, even according to the Kabbalah, he has what to rely on. Even if he wants to be a Kabbalist, right, whatever. No problem. We can let you be a Kabbalist and also trim your beard once in a while. No problem. We'll let you slide on that.
Give
right?
Some freedom.
Exactly. Also, Moren Rabbeinu Maran Abar Shalom, my rabbi, Rabbi, he says that, as we said, right, according to the Arizal, that you should let the peot grow a little bit long. He says, the Rabbi Shalom, that even according to the words of the Arizal, there is room also to cut the peot as well. In other words, to not let them grow at all, just to keep them like a little bit bushy, something not too prominent, not too big. Why? Because he interprets the Arizal, the words of the Arizal, in a little bit different way. So the truth is that he says that. So what does that mean? That a person can be very Kabbalistic, whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean he has to let his beard grow uncontrolled. It doesn't mean that he has to let his peot grow like antennas, one antenna over here, one antenna over here. He doesn't have to do all that. He doesn't need all these things. So, everybody can, have his way a little bit, there's a lot of leeway over here. There's a lot of ways to accommodate yourself.
Don't tell nobody.
No, don't tell, I wouldn't just Facebook. So, as we said, Rabbi, there's really a lot of freedom over here to do a lot of things that you want. The only really, the bottom line, bare bones prohibition is really with a blade. In other words, that's when you get into real trouble. Right. But if you're right, but now here also, as we said, the body is also not allowed. Meaning what? To do with the blade. But any other method you're allowed to do with the body. Whether it's a trimmer, whether it's a shaver, whether it's epilator, whether it's a tweezer, whether it's a cream, whether it's a laser, whether it's electrolysis, wax, any of these things on the body are allowed. Even for a man. I'm not talking about a woman right now. I'm talking about a man. All these things are allowed.
What's the significance of the beard? Just to look.
Chesed.
Just chesed.
And also prominence. Right? Two things.
Wise man.
The wise guy.
You
So,
don't distinguish.
yes, absolutely. So, Rabbi, now we're going to talk a little bit about the body also, right? That as we said, you're allowed to use all the other methods besides the blade. So therefore, if a person wants to be totally hairless on his body, but use something besides the blade, he can. It's not really a problem. The truth is, that there's actually in the Bible we find in the book of Shmuel, the story of David HaMelech, King David. Over there, actually, we find that in those days the custom was to shave their legs, the men. You know why? Because they were going probably with their legs were a little bit showing, in those days, like they were wearing like a skirt kind of thing, whatever, So therefore, you'll see those old, you see that their legs were kind of exposed in those days. So therefore, right, exactly, yeah. So therefore, the truth is that the custom, it seems to be in the times of the Bible, was they used to shave their legs, the men, Not with a razor, as we said, right? With the razor, it's not allowed, but there's also other methods, so it's not a problem. They're probably doing it with scissors, whatever, So the point is that the body is not really a problem, right? But when it comes to the armpits and the pubic area, so there's also, right? They say you shouldn't do too close with scissors. Also, you know why? Because it's like a woman's kind of thing. Right? If you know how to do it, it's not dangerous. Believe me. Yeah, I know what you mean. But yeah, I know what you mean. Castration problem. Eunuch. Get into eunuch. But there's also machines, whatever. There's all kinds of things. So that's not really an issue. Anyway,
Rabbi, you heard about Madonna? Looking for a kosher chef for her 3 homes.
Ooh, okay. Actually, she was supposed to convert, but then she decided not to. She was on a conversion process.
She wants to be kosher.
For a while.
So, I don't know. She Kabbalah, right?
She wanted to convert, but then she reverted. She went back. She didn't really decide to convert. Okay, whatever. God bless her. Whatever.
She's looking for a kosher.
Okay, Nobody's obligated to convert. We're not pressing them to convert. If they don't want to, they don't have to. They can be a good person. God bless them.
Keep kosher.
Okay, that's good. Very good. I love it. There's a lot of Americans who keep kosher, by the way. A lot of Americans. Yeah, Americans are very.
A lot of the blacks like kosher meat.
Yeah, it's good. Very good. God bless. More money for the butchers. What can I tell you? More profits for them. Okay, so anyway, Rabbi, as we said on the body. Right, the limitation a little bit more on the armpits and the pubic area because of what we said, right? Meaning what? Not to use too close also with the scissors, not to get too close over there. But regarding using other types of methods, this time it's allowed, right? What does that mean? To use cream is allowed. To use epilators is allowed because these things the rabbis made no mention of these things, even on the pubic area and on the underarms. No such a thing like that. So, Rabbi, now, right, we have to also talk about the women. Right? What about the women? So the women, the truth is, right, that they have no prohibition regarding shaving any part of their body, right? Whether it's the peot, whether it's the corners, whether it's their legs, whether it's the pubic area, whether it's any part of their arms, whatever it is, right? All the areas they can shave with a razor as well. No problem to shave with a razor, right? Why is that? Because all these laws in the Torah, we're only talking about men. So therefore, they can do whatever they want, pretty much, right? Free range, free permission to do whatever they want.
But what if somebody does it for you?
That's the question. We're going to talk about that.
So the thing is, right, with the goy, right? You can have the.
You beat me to the punch. I was going to talk about it right now. It's good you brought it up. Good, Baruch Hashem. So anyway, we're going to say it right like this, right? That women are allowed to shave themselves, but the question is, are they allowed to shave men? In other words, since she has no prohibition of shaving. So if she shaves a man or a boy, like let's say, so is she going over a prohibition or not, right? So the truth is that the man, because he's a Jew, he's not allowed to let anybody shave him like that. He has to stop him. Say, no, I'm sorry. Don't allow you to do that. There's a prohibition.
Barber's a no-no.
Well, if he's using a razor, yeah. So even if it's a goy, by the way, even if it's a goy, you're not allowed to let the goy shave you also like that. You cannot say, goy's doing it. That's not me. But since you're helping him to do it, you're allowing him.
Shave, you mean using a blade?
Right, yeah, exactly. For sure. But machines, everything is allowed, right? No problem, right? Yes. So therefore what? that a person should not allow anybody to shave him. But the question is, what about from the vantage point of the woman? Is she going over any prohibition? So the answer is, there's a machloket, right? According to the Rif and the Rosh, if the woman shaves the man, she has no prohibition to do that. The man has a prohibition, but not the woman. The Rambam says also the woman also has a prohibition to do that. Why is that? Because she's causing the man to sin. So therefore, right, there's two different opinions. Both of these opinions are brought down to Shulchan Aruch. What's the halacha? The halacha is like the first opinion. That what? That the woman is not really transgressing anything when she shaves a man or a boy. You know? So therefore, it's only the man's transgression. It's not the woman's transgression when this happens. You know what I mean? Same thing, by the way, with a goy, right? He himself doesn't have any mitzvah about the corners and this and that, all these things. So when he does you, he's not going over prohibition. You're the ones going over prohibition because you're letting him do it, or you're like doing like this, right? Like pointing up so he can help. You're helping him to do it by angling your face like this, going like this and like that. All these things, right? So when you do all these things and help him, it's like you're doing it yourself. That's the way it's considered to be. So therefore, in a situation like that, a person is not allowed to let a goy or a woman to shave him like that. But they themselves are not going over any prohibition. That's something else. Right? That's a different story. So what about shaving a kid, right? He's not bar mitzvah yet. So, a person who's not bar mitzvah, he doesn't have any mitzvot yet. But it's a mitzvah from the rabbis to do chinuch. You know what that means? To train the child to do mitzvot. So what does that mean? From the age of about 6 or 7, a person is obligated to train his boy, to do mitzvot. So therefore, we should buy him a lulav, to shake a lulav. We should do all these mitzvot that he does. Buy him a talit also, talit. They should wear talit when it comes to the shul. All these things, we train them in order they should be able to do the mitzvot later on. They should be used to it. Shouldn't be something new to them. All of a sudden, they just jumped into something, which they don't even know what's going on. So therefore, what we do is we train them to do the mitzvot. So therefore, right, a person is not allowed to shave a child either. What does that mean? That if you as a man shave your boy, right, and do with a razor, as we said, right, those things, so you're not allowed to do that. Why? Because he has a mitzvah of chinuch, right, and therefore you're not allowed to shave him.
You can only guide him, tell him.
Even that you shouldn't do, right?
You have to train him.
Right, you should train him to do the mitzvot, not to go against the mitzvot, to do the mitzvot, right? You understand? In other words, you train him to do the mitzvot. What does that mean? Not to shave like that. Right? So once he gets to the age of 6 or 7, try to tell him, okay, it's like this, you gotta do like that. So this way, when he grows up, he'll know what he's doing. It's not going to be like something he just jumped into the water, jumped into the pool all of a sudden. You should be already used to the mitzvot. So therefore, Rabbatai, a woman, as we said, right, doesn't have any of these mitzvot. But according to Rambam, if she shaves a man, she's also going over a prohibition. So that's also not really so good to do. Obviously. Also, the man is not allowed to do it from his vantage point. So therefore, it's really a non-starter.
If you're a corrupter, you're sinning.
So that's true. Right? But they say, by the way, a person who causes others to sin is worse than a person who kills them. Because like if you kill a person, okay, this world you took him out, but next world you'll have. But if you cause him to sin, the next world you also won't have. So therefore, it's even worse. When you cause a person to sin, it's considered to be a bigger problem. So that's nothing worse than that, right? They say the instigator is the worst. So who is the instigator? The snake, right? That's why he got punished more than anybody else. The instigator is number one problem for us. Right? So therefore, Rabbi, this is the issue of shaving. So every person has to know what's allowed and what's not allowed. And the truth is that, as we said, right, with today's technology and today's resources and methods, we have really no problem. We can get by very, very well. Hashem should bless you with a good health and refuah shlema. And we'll see you, Bezrat Hashem, next week.
Thank you, Rabbi.
God bless. All the best. Bye-bye.
Rabbi.